Welcome to iRepairFast.com's LG Thrill 4G digitizer and LCD replacement video. We'll be showing you how to replace both the digitizer and LCD, but you can use this video to do one or the other if only one is broken. As with all devices, please ensure it is powered down before we begin. The first step is to remove the back battery cover, SIM card, SD cards, and any other plug-in devices. Make sure to set these aside. As we move along through this repair, make sure that you keep your parts organized. We prefer to lay things down from left to right in rows, and then during reassembly we pick things up from right to left, and that keeps everything in order. Next, we're going to be removing 8 small Phillips screws. Make sure to put these in an area where they won't be blown off the table by a fan or knocked off. You don't want to spend any time on the floor searching for these screws. Now that the last screw is out, we're going to pop off this bottom cover as shown. It comes off pretty easily. Just pop it off with your fingers and set it aside. The next step is to remove the mid-frame assembly. We're going to be using a guitar pick. A safe pry tool can also be used, but we prefer to use the pick. All you do is insert it in there and work your way around, releasing the plastic clips. Take care not to insert it directly over any buttons or ports, specifically the buttons, because you can accidentally damage the ribbon tethers that control the button's function, and that is definitely not desirable whatsoever. If you have trouble at any particular clip, just move on and come back to it later. Usually if you loosen up the clips to the right or left of a stubborn clip, it'll free it up. You might notice that the buttons are falling out. They just rest inside the side frame. So make sure to take the 3D, power, and volume buttons and set those aside in a safe place. Before going too much further, it's important to note that the power and volume tether ribbons must be unadhered prior to motherboard removal. You'll see them on the top and on the left side here, and they're lightly adhered down with double stick tape. Just gently release those and free them up. If you try to remove the logic board without doing that, you will rip the tethers. In this step we used a razor blade. We suggest that you use a safe pry tool or guitar pick. And they hinge towards the back side of the phone, and you'll see that here in a second. If you need to, just stop and take a look at how this step works before attempting it. Next we'll be releasing the coaxial wire connection. Just pry it directly up and it should free easily. Once that's complete, follow the video to release the rest of the ribbon connections. The SD SIM card board is adhered to the logic board. Use a hairdryer on high or a heat gun on low to assist in removal. Here we've got a low powered heat gun and we just generally heat the entire area. You don't want to overdo it. Just heat it until it's warm to the touch. Gently heat and lift ribbon as shown. If this doesn't come up easily, apply a bit more heat and then try again. You do not want to force it. From here the whole board can be lifted. And as you can see, you have to free up that adhesive, but if it's warm enough, it'll come right up. Gently lift the final ribbon connector on the bottom center of the logic board. That's the final step, and now we're ready to remove the logic board from its recess. The screen is actually attached to a removable bezel, and next we'll be removing that bezel with a guitar pick, as shown. There are many clips, so take your time, and just like before, if you have a stubborn clip, move on and then come back to it later. As you're doing this, angle your guitar pick towards the broken glass and away from the LCD screen if at all possible. If you touch the LCD screen with the tip of either the Safe Pry tool or the guitar pick, you can leave marks or smear old adhesive on it or something like that. So try to maintain minimal contact if at all possible with the LCD. Push the ribbon through as shown. If you have troubles, you can always cut or tear the ribbon since it's attached to a broken digitizer, and that will help ease the removal of that ribbon. In the next step, we will be replacing the LCD. Skip this step if it is not required. Since this LCD is already broken beyond repair, we don't have to take too much care in removing it, but you do want to be careful of ribbons and other components. We're going to pry it away from the side, and it lifts out pretty easily. If it starts giving you a hard time, you can gently heat the back to release the double stick adhesive. This adhesive, which you'll see here shortly, is reusable. You don't want to have to add any adhesive underneath the LCD because it can change the measurements basically and cause LCD flex. So we're going to lay the new LCD right on top of the old adhesive, and that will be enough to hold it in place. The LCD has a screen protector, as we're showing here. Leave that on until the later stages of this repair, and that'll help keep the LCD from becoming damaged. Lift ribbon as shown and insert through the hole in the back plate. Gently press the LCD into place and ensure that the ribbon comes through the slot. Next, we'll be replacing the touchscreen digitizer. Heat the digitizer as shown with either a heat gun on low or a hairdryer on high. As you can see right there on the bottom, there's a soft button ribbon tether. You want to be very careful with that during these upcoming steps. If you damage that, you will lose function of either the LED lights or complete function of the soft buttons altogether. Gently pry out screen using a guitar pick as shown. If it's warm enough, this should lift out very easily. If it starts becoming harder as you go along, apply a bit more heat and begin again. Once again, be very cautious of the bottom ribbon underneath the soft buttons. You do not want to damage that tether. As always, you want to avoid getting cut up by cleaning up the work area, which we'll do here real quick. Next, we're going to ensure all glass and adhesive is cleared from the frame. The cleaner this frame is at the end, the better off your repair is going to turn out. The adhesive needs a clean surface to attach to, and if you haven't cleaned off the old adhesive, sometimes you can have problems with the screen lifting. If you leave any amount of small broken pieces of glass inside of the frame, that can cause undue pressure on the new screen and cause it to crack prematurely. Apply 3M adhesive as shown. Using the supplied adhesive, we're going to cut out the pieces required to provide a secure fit for our new screen. Adhesive is not the place to make shortcuts. You want full 360-degree coverage with your adhesive to keep dust from getting in between your digitizer and your LCD. As we're working with the adhesive, make sure to smooth it down as you go. Smoothing it down ensures good contact between both surfaces. As we're putting tape over these areas, make sure to keep your eye out for any camera ports, sensor ports, or slots that we're covering with the tape. We're going to cover them with the tape now, but before we're done here, we're going to uncover those areas so the phone can function properly. Now we're going to cut out any excess from the back side and make sure it's a perfect fit. Now that we're almost done, we're going to make sure all camera and sensor ports are clear of any adhesive. In the next section, we will be handling the new screen. Latex gloves are recommended. Remove adhesive backings as shown. We're almost ready to put our new digitizer in the bezel assembly. It's got screen protectors on both sides. At this point, you must remove the rear screen protector. Removing the front screen protector at this point is optional. We prefer to do it to make sure there's no dust on the screen whatsoever, no fingerprints. Next, we're going to just slip the tether underneath the upper portion of the bezel there. Make sure it's not hung up on anything. And set the digitizer into place. Once it's fully seated, gently press along its border to make sure it sets against the adhesive. Next, we will be removing the headphone jack to make inserting the screen tether much easier. On the upper right is the headphone and tether. We're going to gently lift that out of its recess and it will free up the slot that the digitizer ribbon needs to go back through to complete this repair. At this point, remove the screen protector covering the LCD. Insert ribbon through slot as shown. Before pressing this bezel into place, we want to make sure this ribbon is all the way through and there is no slack hung up between the screens. And this is also your last chance. If you've got some canned air, it'll help clear away any remaining dust between the LCD and digitizer. Once you're satisfied with the way it looks, carefully press the frame back into place. Just like pressing the glass down, we're going to work our way around the border and ensure each clip engages. You can also look at it from the side and make sure no area is popped up. You want to make sure it's seated completely flush. At this point, take a second to reinstall the headphone jack as shown. Now that the headphone jack is secured, we're going to be reinstalling the logic board. Be very careful with the power and volume tethers. While doing this, you want to constantly keep an eye on them and make sure they don't get hung up or snagged on anything. If those tear, the motherboard may be considered shot. So you definitely do not want to ruin either one of those button tethers, or you will lose functionality of the phone. Ensure the board sits flush. If it does not sit flush, there's something wrong. You want to gently remove it and try again. At this point, reattach all ribbons and connections as shown. The coax connection must be carefully pressed into place. You want to have it directly over the male end and press it straight down. And of course, dress up the coaxial wire in its groove as shown. Be very careful when inserting that coax connection because you do not want to bend the sides of the metal cylinder. Ensure power and volume tethers lay down flat when you press them into place. If they won't stick in place, use a very small amount of adhesive to make sure that they get back to where they belong. What you don't want to do is accidentally tear these when putting on the mid-frame bezel. Reinstall the SIM and SD card board as shown. Ensure that you reattach any ribbon connectors at this point. It's also very important to just keep your eye on anything and make sure nothing is out of place. At this time we're going to be putting down this ribbon, but we're having a bit of trouble with it, so we decided to use a bit of adhesive. Here we just cut out a small square, remove the backing, and then seat the ribbon in place. Reinstall the volume, power, and 3D button in the side frame. They're uniquely shaped, so it's hard to get it wrong. Just take a look at the impression on the frame and put the button in there as the orientation directs you. Alright, we're almost done. Next we're going to be reinstalling the bottom cover. That just snaps right down. At this time it's good to take a look at everything, make sure there's no gaps in the frame and that everything seats right. Once it's good, reinsert 8 small Phillips screws as shown. Reinstall the battery, SIM and SD cards, and back cover. Before we finish up today, we'd like to thank you for watching our video. All of us here at www.irepairfast.com certainly appreciate it. If you decide to order the repair or part from us, you can expect ongoing customer support. Our repairs have a 24-hour turnaround from the day we get it. It'll be back in the mailbox by that day or the next morning. For any part orders, we have an instant chat option on our website where you can communicate directly with one of our technicians to assist you during the course of the repair. And of course, if you have any comments or questions, you can either contact us through our website or leave it in the comment section below.